and welcome to today's episode of Social Footprint. Today we're joined with Jonathan Prew, also known as JP, Managing Director of We Are Group, where we'll be discussing operational efficiency in the face of the digital divide. So JP, I hope you don't mind me saying, but you've been working with tech and the internet ever since it was invented. Would you still envision that we're talking about the digital divide 30 years later?
I find it amazing that we are, but equally, if I look at, very kindly point out my age. Thank you very much for that, Jasneet. I guess, when I first started working in tech, did I think 30, odd years later, people would be making money out of dancing cat videos and spaniels with confused faces, planning holidays? No, I didn't. Okay. Equally, I did see quite a lot of potential, and I did some early adoption. The one thing I called completely wrong, I just thought it'd be a natural occurrence that people would adopt technology. I never thought for 1 minute people would be leaving school with low digital skills. If I'd have said any barrier to technology, it would have been the physical device. Can I afford a device? Because at the time, relatively expensive. I remember my first mobile phone probably cost me more than my mobile phone does now. What I would never have envisaged, and I think that's why most systems were built around 100% adoption, was that people wouldn't go online, because from a consumer point of view, you think, surely everybody would want to do something when it suits them and more quickly. And therefore, when we started building systems, we probably didn't think enough about people that wouldn't go online but wanted to go online. And we spent a lot of time talking about people that still wanted to use walk-in services, because at that time it was walk-in or go online. We never really thought about the people that would like to go online but were hesitant to do so. So dancing cats, confused spaniels, never thought of that one. Did have an idea to set up an internet company to sell houses. Okay. People I spoke to said that's not really going to work, is it? Look at Rightmove. I could have been a millionaire, but I didn't do that one.
Oh, interesting. So obviously talking then about the power of digital and its relation to kind of operational efficiency, would you ever thought of it being related to social impact? I mean, obviously having worked in kind of the public and private sectors where it's quite disparate, with one being more focused on social impact and perhaps one bit more corporate kind of operational efficiency, did you ever see them as exclusive, or did you always envision this kind of mutuality between them?
I think if you're talking the past tense, no. Okay. I think if I go back, a number of years, things like the Social Value Act, were not mentioned. Things like B Corps weren't mentioned, and therefore it was a more basic, can we do things more efficiently? I think hopefully, the world has moved on since then, and I think what I find fascinating now is I've worked with people, and we work with people that know around operational efficiency far more than I do, okay? But when I look at what I looked for when I was in my corporate world, first thing is inevitably cost. Let's not beat about the bush. Companies are contracted by clients to operate things in a more efficient way, and without doubt, technology can help do that. Very strong believer, though, and I looked at this in my former life, is that can go hand in hand with customer satisfaction. So I would never ever say that cost and doing things for less was the sole driver, because actually, if you can do things in a more efficient way, then guess what? Your customer base is going to give you a better customer satisfaction rating, in my view. So if I go back to my former corporate life, what I always looked for was, are our costs coming down? Tick. But also, how's our customer satisfaction rating? Because if we can do things at a cheaper point, from a client perspective, great for them. From a consumer point of view, can do things more efficiently, great for them. That in turn helps the sales in terms of new opportunities, extension. I think it's only in the latter years when I've started to look at the social impact element as well. At We Are Group, we talk about no one being left behind. In the UK, we are leaving significant amount of people behind, whether that be school leavers, older people. And I think there's a generalisation that it is an age thing, and it's not. Statistics show that young people are leaving school with limited digital skills. The irony that they're spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds to buy a phone to watch cat videos isn't lost on me. You know, the fact that people in other countries overseas are using technology, to order fast food, etc., but not are using it for basic transaction. So I think, in terms of the work we're doing with We Are Group, I'm just a firm believer if we can help those people with low digital take-up, to be more independent, that ticks so many boxes. If you think about a contact centre reducing the number of repetitive calls because we've given people the skills to get online, someone of my age being able to then move online, that might be 20, 30, hopefully 40 years of calls that are not going to happen because I've got the confidence to move online. So yeah, I think a long way of saying in my early days, yes, I saw how the internet would drive efficiency. I saw how it could improve customer satisfaction. Now I think we've got a perfect opportunity to say actually to all organisations, you can also use technology to improve your social impact. And it's really important.
Okay, no, that's really interesting. There's definitely a lot to unpack there. So obviously you mentioned you never envisioned a world where kind of school goers would leave school without having the digital skills. So how does that itself impact businesses achieving operational efficiency? So how can they maybe achieve that in line with creating kind of social impact?
Okay, I think it's, statistics are showing, and I find it amazing. I'm not going to comment on the education system, but when people are leaving school and records show that they feel under-equipped to use technology, to fulfil a role. At the same time, the UK talks about a skills gap. To me, the answer is fairly straightforward. Let's get people more equipped with tech skills. But again, if I go back to the misconceptions that I think a lot of people, including myself, made in the very early days, that people would naturally go online, and they're not. And so we're creating a new generation who are digitally divided. Without doubt, some of it is due to economic situations. Not everybody can afford technology. I would never say they could. Not everybody can afford the bandwidth, etc. But if you look where we are currently as a business, one of the biggest barriers is now fear of fraud and fear of scams. So maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was let's get people online, let's show them how to send emails. And the resistance was, I don't have the technology, or maybe I don't have the confidence. Now it's, I'm scared of going online because I'm scared of fraud, I'm afraid of being scammed. That's why, as an example, one of our contracts with Lloyds, we've altered that to give people the confidence to spot scam emails. I always say, and again, I'm showing my age now, people who are worried about handing over a sort code or an account number, back in the day when you handed checks out, you did that every day of the week and you didn't think anything about it. So I think now it's people who are used to that handing a check over and thinking that's perfectly normal, actually helping them understand that actually a lot of what you're doing is no different, but they need to have the confidence to know that with basic skills, basic awareness, they're not going to be subject to scams or fraud. Give them that basic awareness, get them over that barrier, and then get them into using the technology.
Okay, no, that's really interesting. So say businesses or organisations do harness kind of digitally powered solutions to improve their kind of operational efficiency. How might they fully engage their customer base then, given that I think approximately 30 million people can't engage with digital devices, or they don't have the digital capability? How might businesses form a solution to that?
I think it's the easiest thing in the world is do what businesses are good at. Okay. And so if we look at, let's look at CRM and let's look at upsell. Okay, we all use internet sites that say, people who have also bought this also bought something else. It's just common practice in that we identify individuals that may have another need. Why are not more companies identifying people based on the persona, based on the mapping, based on all the wonderful things that people in industry can do now, saying these are the people that are lacking digital skills. Every single person that is lacking digital skills and that is constantly calling a helpline is adding to the cost burden of a contact centre. Harsh economic reality of life. If you thought you could upsell 10% of your revenue, you're doing a heartbeat. So why are people not looking at there's 10% cost here that we know is draining this business and we're doing nothing about it? And I think it's because people instinctively think, let's alter the website. Let's make it a bit more snazzy. You know, let's alter the font. You know, let's have a rebrand. You know, sorry to all the brand people out there. Yeah, but it is not going to address the 10% of people that are reluctant to get online. But, you know, identify those people who are online, who are struggling to get online, and do something about it. It is quite a specialist skill. You know, that's why we work with other large companies who say, "Can you do this with us?" But if you imagine someone, you know, of an age that for the next 15, 20 years is going to be constantly phoning your helpline. You know, that might be, if I look at, you know, I come from a local government background, you know, that might be people who are constantly calling about housing repairs. You know, they don't want to be hanging on the phone for 20 minutes. They don't want to do that, but they may not have the confidence to come offline. But I think what happens, generally speaking, is people are obsessive in some good respects about, you know, call waiting times, you know, rather than thinking we have got a hardcore of people here that we could take offline. And I say, I relate it to a retail scenario. If you thought you could upsell and create 10% of revenue, you would do so. If you could take out 10% of cost, that's directly onto the bottom line. You're not even looking at the you know, margin implications of revenue. You're taking it straight to the bottom line. But you've got a loyal customer then. You've got someone that you've helped, you've given them additional skills. They're likely to stay with you longer. You know, your customer satisfaction is going to improve. And you know what? You're kind of doing something for social impact as well. You know, and so increase the bottom line, increase the top line, and do something for social impact. You know, I think it's a fairly decent sale if I was in big business.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a very kind of convincing prospect, that. I think moving on then to perhaps maybe kind of how businesses can educate then their customer base. As you said, digital skills is where the problem may lie, and that's through kind of no fault of consumers or customers. So what can businesses do then to really kind of alleviate that challenge within their customer base?
I think, again, if I stick to a retail theme, really, which is just build awareness. You know, people don't want to lose customers, and therefore, you know, they will do everything they can to keep them. But just as I go back to, if you are a certain sort of person, you may like another product, okay? Not everybody will want to go online. Yeah, I am not saying that there's a hardcore of people and you can shift everyone online. But with a reasonable amount of, you know, persona identification, you will be able to identify the people who, you know, just through a few simple questions, you know, do you text? Yes. Okay. You've therefore got a device that can text. Okay. So you've got the basic means. Yeah. If you then can start to talk to people, I just look at my own family. You know, if you think you are not able to communicate with your grandchildren because they're away at university, that's a fairly compelling thing to be able to say to someone, you know, would you like to be able to, you know, FaceTime your granddaughter, or would you like to be able to send an email, you know, to your grandson who's overseas? You know, and give people a reason for that. And then, you know, if people are willing, then you start to open the door to have that engagement. It's a bit like, you know, I liken it often to teaching children to swim. You know, some people disagree, but you'd never throw a child into the deep end and say good luck, would you? Yeah. But, you know, if you're there to help them along the way, and I think, again, we fall into the common trap of thinking people will self-learn on the internet. They won't. And, you know, by identifying people that, you know, want face-to-face support, you know, maybe willing to do online support if able. But if they put their hand up and said, yeah, I would like to do this, but I just need a little bit of help, you're halfway there. Yeah. So I think, again, you know, some early identification of the people and say, yes, you know, we believe you would benefit from some training, some support. And that may be just as simple as saying, this is how you put your banking app on the phone. You know, this is how you put, you know, a shopping thing on your phone. Then when the app's on, you show them how to use it. And then, you know, by and large, away you go. But it's giving them that helping hand that if you are struggling with digital, you're not going to instantly say, I'm struggling, therefore I will go and download an app. You know?
Yeah, no, that's some really good points there. Thank you, JP. So you used a really nice analogy, actually, of the swimming pool and how you're taught, you're guided, so, you know, one day you can swim off independently. So what mechanisms can businesses perhaps use in terms of kind of really educating their customer base and teaching them how to become independent using digital kind of powered solutions?
I think, I would say this, wouldn't I, given the work we do. I think do not underestimate how specialist that is, because people teach because they are good at explaining things. Okay, often technology-led people are the worst people in the world, in my experience, to teach people, because they instantly get it. If I look at, I like to think I'm reasonably digitally confident, but if my son wants to explain something, he probably loses me within 2 minutes. Okay, so I think what we do is we work with big businesses who we can help them identify the people that would benefit from those skills, and using normal standard triaging mechanisms, would you like some specialist support, and then we take them through digital training. It's fairly straightforward.
Great.
But that could mean various aspects. It may mean, first of all, we need to explain from the very basics, but people are willing to learn.
Yeah.
It may be people have got the basic skills but are scared of fraud, and therefore we'd focus on that element. Equally, if I look at some of the other work we do, it may be we just do not have the basic physical device, which is why we work in with some of our schemes. We give out free equipment, free bandwidth, and that may be for digital training purposes, but it also may be to help people into employment. So I think I'd start with find the root cause of why someone has not adopted technology, and find out what are they trying to achieve, and it will be different things for different people. But once they've made that step, once they've said yes, they want some support and they would benefit from some support, then it's quite a relatively easy task, because you've got someone with an open door. I would never ever try and force someone to move on to digital if they were completely anti it, because it's like trying to learn a foreign language, isn't it? If you want to learn a foreign language, you're quite a willing participant. If you don't, you're not really going to do it.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think for me, kind of the essence of digital skills training is it really owes to kind of a long-term solution as well, rather than short-term. I mean, it's not just the immediate gratification of, okay, we've gotten that caller offline because we've told them how to do this. It's that real kind of prolonged digital training, giving them that kind of experience where, you are establishing their root cause, whether it's an economic factor, whether it's just confidence factor, and you're really playing into that kind of long-term solution. Would you agree?
I think, regrettably, I do have to agree that it is a long-term solution. If I go back to your original question, would I have thought in 30 plus years I'd be sat here talking about the lack of digital adoption among school leavers? Not in a million years. But I think we have to take it just one step at a time, accept there's a huge problem, and unless something changes, it's not going to change. It's all due respect to the education system, but the stats around children, young adults leaving school are truly shocking. Therefore, it is a long adoption and a long process. And I'm sure in a few years' time, when you're head of marketing at some international company over in Europe, fulfilling all your dreams, you'll still be talking about the fact we need to get more digital adoption. So it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
It's not going to go away. But just statistically, if we look at, I think it's about 6,000 contact centres, I think, in the UK.
Wow.
You start to look at the numbers, average probably 125 seats in a contact centre. Okay. You start to think about, if we could shift 10% of that traffic online, you do the maths, 125, say, agents. If you can move, 10 agents, save that money. And I stress that is not a redundancy statement, but just imagine you have freed up 10% capacity, that when you win your next contract, you do not need to go out and hire more people. So again, I really think business is driven by profit. Of course, business should have a social aspect, but business ultimately has to be driven by the economics of running a business. And I just find it so frustrating, to be honest. It didn't used to bother me, it does now, but so frustrating that there's an opportunity out there to address 10% of your cost base. AI is changing the world operates. Any business strategy, any technology strategy that's not considering AI is probably going to be flawed. Everybody knows, AI, we need to adopt AI. Just think if AI could give us a 5% advantage, just think if it could give us a 10% advantage. But actually, you've then got this thing called social impact that I believe can give you the same advantage, and yet people don't talk about it. But I guess if I was a shareholder, or if I'm just put myself in a consumer point of view, I kind of want to back the company that wanted to drive efficiency, wanted to give me a better customer experience, but actually was contributing towards the social impact of where I live as well. And I think it's just another way of looking at things. Not everybody will agree with me. Equally, not everybody will agree that AI is the future. But if you look at opportunities to improve if you want to call it your CSR rating, if you want to call it your SROI rating, which is what we commonly use, or if you want to just look at your value to society and think you could also drive a bottom line advantage, kind of why wouldn't you?
So JP, you mentioned SROI there. So for the benefit of myself as well as listeners, can you expand on what SROI is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's quite often not understood. It's a calculation, basically. Okay. And if I look at some of the work we do, how many jobs have we created? How many people have we helped? Some people would start just on the basis that is your role and that is your social impact you have made. Equally, people talk about corporate social responsibility. SROI is just a further calculation, but is a little bit more complex in that it'll look at the environmental impact, it'll look at the economic impact, and then it comes up with a calculation based on every pound spent, what have you achieved? And obviously there's a multiplier effect. So it's a standard methodology, it's a very powerful methodology, but gives a good, strong indication to us as a business of how well we are doing. So again, if I go back to some of the questions you asked earlier around things like operational efficiency, I want to look at how we're performing for our customer. I want to look at our contact centre stats. Of course I do, because we're running a business. Equally, I want to look at our community partners, the people in the community voluntary sector that we work with and support. I want to look how they're doing, because they're forming part of our contractual relationship with the client. But ultimately, as a social impact business, as a business that is invested by social impact investors, we want to see the outcome of what we're trying to achieve, and we want to see the impact, and therefore we use SROI as a calculation.
Thanks, JP. Thanks for clarifying SROI for us. I think for me it's really refreshing to hear that businesses are now treating return of investment as well as social return on investment on an equal footing, and they are really being achieved in conjunction. And it's exciting to see where things will go with that. But I think that's a really nice place to wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us today on Social Footprint to discuss operational efficiency and social impact. It's been great to have you on.
It's been an interesting experience. Thank you.
Thank you.